commercials every 25 minutes on the show? Or do you want it commercial free? Do you want to be able to listen to all the past shows for free, not cost you anything? Over 400 hours of past shows and growing, free to listen to. But I need your help to help pay for some of the bandwidth. Donate $1 or $2. Go on to the website, www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Donate $1 or $2. Help support to keep it free of advertising, free to listen to the past shows. And again, all my friends out there, have a great new year. And we'll catch you with Terry Lovelace on the 2nd. Now, whoever is listening on the internet, we're going to continue for another half an hour. Me and James are just going to BS a little bit. And so stay tuned if you're on the internet. Everybody, have a good one.
Was a biker and drove his motorcycle very fast. Drove a big chop Harley with a gang color jacket and ran down Citizens for laughs. He had an old lady named Petula who packed an automatic 45 gun. They had just come up from California where they'd shot 6 cops for fun. Jake, he thought it was the best there was down the interstate he saw, till the day he tangled with the county sheriff who they all called 104. It was late on a Thursday evening, and Jake, he was feeling kind of mean, cause he just run out of his favorite drug, you know, the one called amphetamine. So we sauntered up to Petula, and he said, say, baby, let's split. There's a little gas station on down the road that might be fun to hit. So they drove up to the station, and they both jumped off of Jake's ride. They were up to derision at Jake's decision as they both sauntered to the inside. The attendant, he was an old man, and you know he didn't think it very funny. When Petula pulled out that great big gun and said, honey, give me all your money. Well, the old man opened up the cash drawer, and Jake grabbed the money and ran. With Petula out the door to the big chop Harley that was parked on the center kickstand. Then they headed out for the 4-lane, and they thought it was lots of fun. With Jake on his hog, with Petula the dog, with the automatic 45 gun. He thought it was the best there was down the interstate he saw, till the day he tangled with the county sheriff who they all call 104. The old man didn't think it very humorous, and you know he didn't like to get sassed, cause just that morning he had a cup of coffee with a cop named Pendergrast. But the old man had a lot of sense, and he knew just exactly what to do. He dropped it.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
Okay, we're doing extra 30 minutes here tonight. Internet only. We already signed off on the radio stations. So, you know, we can be a little bit more lax, what me and James said. But again, I just want to stress, I want to thank everybody who's been listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio this past year. I do want you to share us on your media. Let everybody know about us. We're trying to cover, well, the UFO topics, the paranormal, and conspiracies in the paranormal, well, better than some shows do. And, you know, you can keep it free of advertising just by donating $1 or $2. If like 20 or 30 people did that each month, I wouldn't have to do any advertising on the internet. We make our little bit of money from the radio stations. They don't pay us, but we do have some people that, well, have commercials for our show. And it's only played on radio stations, not on the internet, because that's the way I had it set up. I wanted to keep it totally free, you know, of advertising on the internet side of the show. But if I don't get some donations here shortly, then I'm going to have to do one of two things. One is I'm going to have to put that advertising that goes out to the radio stations on the show. So you're going to hear about 5 minutes every 25 minutes of advertising. Also, I will have a charge for the archives. I don't want to have a charge. I think radio should be free. But I got to pay for this bandwidth. I mean, radio stations don't pay us anything to carry our show. So, we make our little bit of money to keep the show going with advertisers. But, I'm doing something different than a lot of shows do. I don't put advertising on my show, not on the internet side. Now, me and my agent have gone around circles about that, and I stayed firm on it. But I understand his point. If we don't start getting enough donations coming in, I'm going to have to put advertising, or I'm going to simply have to charge to listen to the archives. I don't want to have to do that. I just don't want to have to charge people to listen to the past shows. I mean, you can go back on and listen to any show for the last year and a half for free. And I know my competition, they charge you to listen to their past shows. I don't want to have to do that. I just don't. But anyway, getting back to these, when you think about it, abductions, something is going on. And you're right. There are billions of planets out there, if not even more. I just don't think the universe just comes to a brick wall. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, James, my grandmother, when we were talking about religion, and she goes, don't ever ask about where God comes from because you'll go crazy. That's what she used to tell me. But I say, hey, Grandma, but what happens with the universe? Does somebody put a brick wall up? And she goes, yeah, there's our planets, and there's a couple of solar systems, and that's the end of it. And I said, well, if that's the end of it, that tells me that there's no such thing as nothing, because nothing is still something, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you got a box of empty air, you still have something there. It's a volume. And so I think that, yes, there's a whole bunch of, things that could be coming seeing our planet. And maybe they're still extorting things from our planet. Maybe at one time it was gold and silver. Okay? But now maybe it is harvesting human parts for various reasons. Maybe they're cloning humans. But why would they need to keep cloning, going up and abducting people and experimenting and taking DNA from humans? Because after they've done enough of it, they could create their own race of humanoids. So they would have their own DNA. They could have their own, growing their own DNA over and over and over again at that point. So there's something else behind all this. Something we just don't comprehend. We can't comprehend because we're not intelligent enough to understand what is going on.
Yeah, I agree totally. Maybe it's because they're trying to get themselves immune, their hybrids immune to live here to take over, or it could be a million different possibilities. Maybe it's because, hey, look, we're a good food source, a good protein source. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that after all the millenniums they've been coming here, they'd have done found out whatever they're experimenting with, that's for sure, unless they're trying to make something or have to have something to sustain them while they're making something while they're here. Otherwise, it makes no sense to us in our brains anyway.
Maybe we taste good.
Right.
No, seriously. Maybe they're harvesting our DNA to keep their, cattle ranches going. I have no idea. But I tell you what, people are vanishing in large numbers every year, like clockwork. Again, unless we're calling certain people liars that claim that they've been on board UFOs and they've seen other humans on them being taken away, maybe their DNA wasn't good enough for whatever is resourcing out for DNA. You know what I'm saying? So they're abducting people. Oh, you just don't meet the grade, so we kick you out. The same way hey, that steak is not, it's not. I don't know. It just makes me wonder what is going on, and I'm scared.
Yeah, there's no that's the thing. There's no defense against it, because I've got defense against just about every kind of beast there is, but there's no defense against it. You're helpless. If they come, I don't think there's any way to defend yourself or stop them. Now, don't get me wrong. I would definitely try.
But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to do any good if they can come through your wall, which means they're opening up a portal. They're doing, as we already know, atoms aren't solid, molecules aren't solid. They are constantly moving. So maybe they're just coming through and doing whatever they're doing, and then abducting you and pulling you back through. Again, there's a reason behind all this. Why would they want to keep abducting somebody over and over and over again? Other the same way is that you're watching certain animals, right? You, from birth to their death, to see how they function, what their mating habits are, where their migration habits are. Maybe that's nothing more than what they're doing with us. But you mentioned the pyramids at one point, and I'm looking at this. I have had guests on the show. All the pyramids were, hey, some of these stones were, 20 miles away in the quarry?
Longer. Yeah,
and how could they be drugged through sand? Impossible. You couldn't even roll them on a round tree, it's impossible. Not in the sand. Try moving anything in the sand. It'll get stuck really fast.
Yeah, one of the theories, even for Easter Island, too, how they move these things, they tried to say they use logs. Well, I got news for you. You take something that weighs 20 tons, that isn't, as big as a house, but it's kind of small, 20 ton, like a rock, and you put it on a bunch of logs, it's going to crush them logs or sink them so far down in the ground, you're not going to be able to use them as rulers. That is a bogus concept if I've ever heard one.
Well, have you ever been out west in your whole lifetime?
I haven't been west of Mississippi, but been everywhere else.
Okay, well, I can say this. If you go up to the sand dunes up in Oregon, for example, okay, if you've been where you saw the sand dunes, pretend that's like in Egypt, okay?
Right.
It's no way you're going to take a round tree, okay, and put weight on it in the sand and try rolling it, even with 1,000 slaves, because the sand is like liquefies. It'll sink right into the sand, and that's the end of it. Okay, right. It's not solid. So we're going to poop that one out right away. That one's shit it out. It's gone. Okay? It's shit Lola. Now, the other one, I had a guy on it. Oh, well, you know what they did. They dug canals through the sand, right?
Yeah.
And then they made barges. And then they put the stones on the barges that weigh 20 tons, all right? And they float it down to where they're building the pyramids. Now,
let me tell you something. I seen that experiment on TV, and they couldn't do it. And they couldn't do it with I think it was a 4-ton rock, not to mention a 20-ton. It just wouldn't. It doesn't work. It's dangerous. People are going to die.
Okay, well here's the little experiment. Go buy yourself a 50-pound bag of sand. Okay, now this is on a small scale, right? Now you're going to cut the top of the bag open. So you got this sand that's maybe 4 or 5 inches thick in the bag, right? Now you imagine the desert where the pyramids are. The sand is a lot thicker than 4 inches, right? And it goes for thousands of miles. Now, you're going to sit there and take through that canal you just made and put water flowing in it. Well, have you ever imagined a huge sponge and you put water on the sponge? It sucks it up. Well, that sand is going to suck that water up. So there's no way you could ever fill that canal. You would never have enough water around, especially in Egypt. Okay? They have the Nile River, but you'll never have enough water to fill a canal. Because it's going to
Sand-
suck. It's going to suck it away like a big sponge, and it's gone.
Yeah, and plus sand and water,